Edexcel, GCSE, Mathematics Linear, Paper 1, Non-Calculator, Foundation Tier, March 2012. At the start of the exam, I'd want to write down on the formula sheet anything that I think I'm going to need to remember during the course of the exam. So in this case, I'm going to write down that the area of a triangle is the base times the height, divided by 2. I might also decide to write down that 1,000 meters is equal to 1 kilometer. Anything that you'll find useful, you can write down at this stage. On question number 1, I'm asked to write down the number shown by the arrow. So I'm just going to check what my scale goes up in. First off, I could try ones, but I can see it's going from 400 to 500 reasonably quickly. So I'm going to make an estimate, and I think it's probably 10, and then I'm going to check 410, 420, 430, 440, 450, and I'm halfway, so I can see that it works. So back here is 430. On part B again, I need to write down the number shown by the arrow, so I know it's in between 1 and 2, and therefore it's going to be 1 point something. And again, I'm going to try and see what my scale goes up in. I think it might be 0.1, so I'm going to count the 0.1s. 1.1, 1.2, 3, 0.4, 1.5, halfway, it looks good, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8. So that would be 1.8. In part C, I'm asked to mark the number 340 on the number line, so I need to work out what this scale goes up in. Now it goes from 300 to 400, so I'm going to try going up in tens. 310, 320, 330, 340, 350. So it hasn't worked. So I'm going to try double that because I got halfway and I made it to 350. So 320, 340, 360, 380, 400. So it does go up in 20s. And the second one there was 340. On part D, I'm asked to mark the number 4.9. 4.9 is obviously somewhere between 4 and 5, so I just again need to confirm what my scale goes up in. So I'm going to try 0.1, so 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, and I'm halfway, so it is 0.1 that it's going up in. So that would be 4.9 there, just one mark before the 5. On question number 2, I'm asked to work out 24 multiplied by 20, and as this is a non-calculator paper, I'm going to use the grid method. So, side I've got 20, and along the top I've got 20 and 4. So 2 times by 2 would give me 4, and I've got 1, 2 zeros to add back in. And 2 times by 4 would be 8, and I've got 1 0 to add back on. So I've got 400 and 80 added together. And it's always worth adding them up using the column method, and my answer is 480. Part B, I'm asked to do 205 take away 37, so several ways of doing this. The first one I'm going to use is column subtraction. So I can't take the 7 from the 5, so I would need to borrow from the 0, but again I can't borrow from the 0, so I'm going to jump over to the hundreds, and I'm going to borrow from the 200 and make that 100 and carry over that into the tens column. I'm then going to cross the 10 out here and turn that into a 9 and borrow the 1 that I need for the units column. So 15 take 7 is 8, 9 take 3 is 6, and 1 take away 0 is 1. So my answer is 168. Now that's quite a complicated way of doing a subtraction, so it may be easier for you to draw a number line and start at 205 and then subtract 37. So in the first instance I'm going to subtract 5, and that will take me down to 200. I'm then going to subtract another 2. I've now subtracted the 7. That's going to take me to 198. And now I'm going to subtract the 30. So I've now subtracted 37. And taking off 30 from 198, I'm going to get 168. Now I can always check my subtractions by adding up my answer, 168, with what I subtracted. And I should get back to my original value of 205. 8 add 7 is 15, so 5 carry the 1. 6 add 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. 1 add 1 is 2. And I've got the right answer because I had 205 originally. In part C, I'm asked to add 18, 24 and 12. So I'm going to add them up using the column method. So 8 add 4 is 12, add 2 is 14. 1 add 2 is 3, add another 1 is 4, add the 1 is 5. So my answer there would be 54. In question 3, I'm given a pattern of sticks, you can see above here, and I'm asked to draw pattern number 4. So that would be a case of drawing 4 rectangles and having diagonal lines across them all. In part B, I'm asked to complete the table, and I can see from my table that each time I'm adding on 4 sticks. So it's a simple matter of continuing this sequence. So 13 add 4 would be 17, and 17 add 4 would be 21. I'm then asked to work out how many sticks there would be in pattern number 8. So I'm just going to continue this sequence in the space provided. So 5 sticks was 21, so if I add 4 onto that, I'm going to get 25. And I'm going to continue in this fashion until I get to the 8th pattern, and therefore 33 sticks. In part D, I'm told that Josh has 100 sticks, and I'm asked if he can make a pattern in the sequence using all of the sticks. Now I can see from my original sequence that goes 5, 9, 13, 17, all of those numbers are odd. 100 is an even number, so we won't be able to make a pattern in the sequence using all of the sticks. So the answer is no, and that is because 100 is an even number and sequence is always odd. On question 4, I'm given a 2-stage number machine and told that it multiplies by 2 here and then adds 10 here. And then I'm given a table with some inputs and some outputs. So what I'm going to do is just check that this first one works. So if I put in 1 as my input and times that by 2, I would get 2 here. And then if I added 10 to that, I would have an output of 12, which is correct. It's what I've got in the table in the first row. So now I'm going to come down and fill in the table. So my input should be 8. So I'm going to have an input of 8. I'm going to times that by 2 to get me 16. And then I'm going to add 10 on to get 26. So the missing number here would be 26. Now in the second part of this table, I'm given the output of 40, and I'm asked to work my way backwards to the input. So what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to draw this number machine in reverse. So rather than adding 10, I'm going to take away 10, and rather than timesing by 2, I'm going to divide by 2. And then I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to start with my output of 40. I'm going to take away 10 to give me 30. And then I'm going to divide by 2 to give me 15. So my answer here would be 15. In part B of the same question, I'm given a different 2-stage number machine. I'm told that my input is multiplied by 2, and then something else happens here, and that gives me my output. And I'm told that when the input is 10, the output is 26. So following my number machine through, 10 times by 2 would be 20. 20, something happens here, and I get 26. And hopefully I can see that what must happen here is add 6, because 20 add 6 would give me 26. On question 5, I'm given some solid shapes down the left hand side, and I've been asked to match them up, and they've matched up the first one for me, so they've matched up the cuboid here. So I'm going to start with the most obvious shape here, which is this one here, which is a cube. This one here is a cylinder. This one here is a cone, which leaves me with one shape and one answer. Now, this shape on the end here is a triangle, and the shape is the same all the way through, and that makes it a triangular prism. In the second part of this question, I'm asked how many faces does the cuboid have. So the first thing to do is identify where the cuboid is, which is this shape here, and I'm asked to say how many faces it has. Now a face would be, for example, the front of the shape there. So by counting those, 1, 2, 3 for the back, 4 for the left hand side, 5 on top and 6 for the base, I can see that the cuboid has 6 faces. Question 6, I'm asked to write down the fraction of the shape that is shaded, and then I'm asked to give it in the simplest form. So I can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there are 10 small squares in that rectangle, and 8 of them are shaded in. And now I need to simplify, so I'm trying to find a number that will divide into both 8 and 10. So I can simplify my fraction down, and that number is going to be 2. If I divide both those numbers by 2, I get 4 fifths. Part B, I'm asked to work out 10% of 50, and I know to find 10%, I need to divide by 10. So 50 divided by 10 will be 5. So 10% of 50 is £5. Part C, I'm asked to change 3/4 to a decimal. Now, I know that 3/4 is 0.75, so I can just write the answer down. If you're not sure, I'm going to write 3/4, and I'm going to try and turn that into a fraction out of 100. Now, 4 will go into 125 times, so I can multiply the bottom by 25 and the top by 25 as well. And that would get me 3 lots of 25 is 75. So I know that that is 75%, which as a decimal would be 0.75. On question 7, I'm told that there are 24 men in a room, and that half of them are wearing a red shirt. So I need to find 1/2 of 24, and to find 1/2 of 24 I need to do 24 divided by 2, which is 12. So there are 12 men wearing a red shirt. In the second part of the question, I'm told that 1/3 are wearing a green shirt, so I need to find 1/3 of 24, which will be 24 divided by 3, which would be 8. So there are 8 men wearing a green shirt. I'm then told that the rest of the men are wearing a blue shirt. So if I add up these two, I can find that 20 are wearing either red or green, and as there are 24 in total, then the difference between those two numbers, which is 4, must be how many men are wearing a blue shirt. So there are 4 men in blue. In question number 8, I'm shown a design made from white rectangles and grey rectangles, and I'm given the length of the white rectangles, which is 4.8 centimeters, and the grey rectangles, which is 3.6 centimeters. And I'm asked to work out the total length, left hand side to the right hand side. Now I can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 white rectangles, so there are 4 white rectangles, and there are 1, 2, 3 grey rectangles. So I'm going to work out what the 4 white rectangles will add up to. So 4.8 and 4.8. And I'm also going to work out what the grey rectangles add up to. So 6 add 6 would be 12, add another 6 is 18, so 8, carry the 1, 3, 6, 9, plus the 1 would be 10, and the decimal point in. 8, 16, 24, 32, carry the 3, 4, 8, 12, 16, add the 3, 19. I now need to add these two distances together, 19.2 and 10.8. 2 add 8 is 10, carry the 1. 9 add 0 would be still 9, add the 1 would be 10. And 1 add 1 plus the 1 I've carried will be 30. So I've got an answer of 30 centimeters. Question number 9, I'm asked to simplify 2x add 2x, which would just be 4x. 9b, I'm asked to simplify 5y, take away 2y, which would be 3y. And 9c, I'm asked to do 2 times by 4p. And 2 lots of 4p would be 8p. In question 10, I'm told that in the morning Fred walks 400 metres home from school, and then after school he walks the 400 metres back. So he does this for 5 days. So each journey would be 400 metres, and he does that twice in one day. So that would be 800 metres. And he does that 5 times, so I'm going to do 800 times by 5. Now 8 times by 5 would be 40, and I've still got 2 zeros to add up. So that is 4,000 meters. Now the question does ask, give your answer in kilometers. Now I know that 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer, and therefore 4,000 meters should be 4 kilometers, because I've multiplied both sides by 4. In question 11, I'm shown a rectangle with length 10 centimeters and a width of 4 centimeters, and I'm asked to work out the area of the rectangle. Now the area of the rectangle would be length times by the width, so I've got 10 times by 4, which equals 40, and that would be centimeters squared. In part B, I'm told that the rectangle is to be enlarged by a scale factor of 2, and I'm just asked to work out the length and width of the enlarged rectangle. So I'm going to take each of my sides of 10 centimeters, times that by 2 to get 20, which will be the length, and the width of 4 centimeters, multiply that by 2 to get 8, to give me the width. On question 12, I'm shown an incomplete pictogram, and I'm told that each circle represents 4 cars. Now, part A asked me to write down the number of cars in the car park at 4 p.m. on Monday, so there are 4 in that circle, 4 in that circle, and another 4 in there. And there are 3 lots of 4s, 12 in total. In part B, I'm asked to write down the number of the cars in the car park at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. So I have 4 for this circle, 4 for this circle, and this part circle here would be 1, this is 1 quarter. So that would be 9 in total. In part C, I'm told that there were 16 cars on Thursday, and I'm asked to show this on the pictogram. So one circle will be 4, another circle would take me up to 8, another circle would take me to 12, and the final full circle would take me to 16. On Friday, I'm told there are 10 cars in the car park, and again I've got to show this on the pictogram. So a full circle would take me to 4, another full circle would give me another 4, and I need another 2 to get to 10, so I need to draw half of a circle to get me that 2. On question 13, I'm given 5 rows of numbers A through to E, and I'm asked to work out which row has all even numbers in it. Now if I go down, I can see that 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16 are all even, so that would be row A for the first part. In part B, I'm told that the numbers in row C are the first 7 prime numbers, and I'm asked to write down the next prime number. Now, the next number after 17 would be 18, and I know I can write 18 as 1 times 18 and 2 times 9, and therefore that is not prime. So I'm going to try the number after 18, which is 19, which I can do as 1 times 19, and I can't think of any other ways to multiply to give me 19, and that means it has only 2 factors, and that means it is prime. So the next prime number would be 19. In part C, I'm asked to write down a square number from row D, and a square number would be a number times by itself, so for example 1 times 1 or 2 times 2. And it happens that the first square number 1 is in there, so I can use the number 1. I could also have used the number 100. That is 10 times 10. In part D of the question, I'm told that the numbers in row E are the first 7 numbers of a sequence, and then I'm asked to work out the next number in the sequence. Now I can see that that has been doubled, times by 2, that's been doubled and times by 2, and the sequence continues doubling each time until I get to 64. So what I'm going to try and do here is take 64 and multiply it by 2. A couple of ways of doing that. I can do 2 times by 60 and 4, which would be 120 there, and 8, so my answer will be 128, or I can actually just add 64 and 64 together. 4 add 4 is 8, 6 add 6 is 12. On question 14a, I'm asked what the sum of the angles in a triangle is, and that is 180 degrees. Simple case of writing that down. In part B, 1, I'm asked to write down the value of W. W is this angle here. So W is vertically opposite this angle here, this 40 degrees. So therefore W is 40 degrees. It looks the same size as 40, so it is the same size as 40 in this case. And the reason for my answer is that it is a vertically opposite angle to that 40 degrees. And it's important that I do use this word here, vertically. In part C, I'm asked to work out the value of x. So x is in this part of the diagram. And I'm just going to draw that part of the diagram separately down here. So I've got on the left hand side this square, which means that this is 90 degrees. And I've got a line coming off there, and 80 degrees marked here, and I've got x in here. Now I know that there are 180 degrees in a straight line, so if I add up 90 and 80, that'll give me 170. And if I take the 170 away from 180, I get my answer, which is x is 10 degrees. In the final part of this question, I'm asked to work out the value of y. And y is this angle up here inside the triangle. So again, it doesn't hurt to draw the triangle out. I can see that w is this angle, which I've worked out in part B, part 1, so that's 40 degrees. I already know that this is 80 degrees. And in the original part of the question, I worked out there were 180 degrees in a triangle. And I'm asked to work out y. So if I do 80 and 40, that'll be 120 degrees. And if I take that away from 180, I'll get 60 degrees. And that's my angle y. On question 15, I'm given a menu and told that there are 2 starters and 3 main courses. And I'm shown possible meal combinations, for example, soup and chicken. I'm then asked to make a list of all the different meals that is possible, and I'm shown the first one of soup and chicken. So I could have had soup and chicken. So I could also have soup and fish. And I'm just going to write that down as soup and fish, and I'm going to put brackets around it because they have in the example. And I'm going to use soup and omelette. And then I'm going to consider the options if I had melon as a starter. So I could have melon and chicken. I could have melon and fish. Or I could have melon and omelette. In part B, I'm told that a meal is chosen at random. And I'm asked what is the probability that the meal will be melon and chicken. Well, there is only one option for melon and chicken. So it must be 1 out of how many options I have in total. And I can see from part A that there are 6 possible combinations, so the probability that the meal will be melon and chicken is 1/6. In part C, I'm told that the cafe is adding a fruit juice as another starter, and I've said that there will be now 1 more meal to choose from. Now I can see if I add fruit juice in the space they've provided, that I'm going to be left with another 3 options for the meal, so that I can show that Charlie is wrong by saying that fruit juice and chicken is also an option, fruit juice and fish, and fruit juice and omelette are 3 new meal combinations. On question 16, I'm given a sketch of a quadrilateral, and I'm asked to make an accurate drawing in the space below. And they've marked the point A on for me towards the bottom of the paper. So the first thing I need to do is draw a side of 7 centimeters length from A. So using my ruler, I'm going to draw a line of 7 centimeters. Now you do get a little bit of leeway on these questions, but it is important to be as accurate as possible. So that's the point B. I can see from my diagram that at point B I've got an angle of 70 degrees, so I'm going to place my protractor on B, and I'm going to draw an angle of 70 degrees. Now I need to start from the 0 on the line, so 0, 10, 20, and I'm going to count round till I get to 70, and I'm going to make a little mark. And I now need to draw a line from B through that mark of 6 centimeters. So I'm going to place 6 centimeters on my point B, and I'm going to draw through there until I get to the 0 distance on my ruler. So that line is now 6 centimeters long, and this angle is now 70 degrees. I'm now going to draw the angle of 110 at A. So again, with my protractor on the point A, and again I'm going to work from 0. So this time I'm using the inside numbers. So 0, 10, 20, and I work my way around and make a mark at 110 on the inside. And again, this line has to be 5 centimeters. So I'm going to place my ruler through that line, through the point A, through the dash, and I'm going to draw a line that's slightly longer than 5 centimeters. If I was to do 5 centimeters, I can't quite make it to the line. So I'm going to go through that line, 5 centimeters, and a bit extra. I'm now going to go back and actually measure 5 centimeters and make a mark on my line. So I can see that would be the end of my shape at point D. It's now a matter of joining that up to the other point to create the point C. The fact that I've gone a little bit too far here isn't important. The shape A, B, C, D is correctly drawn, and I'm going to mark on the sides and the angles. On question 17, I'm asked to work out 2/3 times by 9/10 and give my answer in its simplest form. So when I'm multiplying fractions, I can simply multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. So that's going to give me 18 on the top and 30 on the bottom. I'm then asked to give my answer in its simplest form. So I'm trying to find a number that will divide into both 30 and 18. And I'm going to go with 2, because they're both even numbers, and that will take me down to 9 over 15. Now it's important at this point that you look at the numbers 9 and 15 and think, can I simplify this fraction any further? And I can see that I can still divide 9 by 3 and 15 by 3, and that will take me down to 3 over 5, and that's my final answer. Now I could have done this division in one stage by dividing by the product of 2 and 3, 6, so 18 divided by 6 would have given me 3, and 30 divided by 6 would have given me 5, and that's fine, but it is important that if you do one simplification that you consider there might be a second one after. In part B, I'm told that the cat eats 2/3 of a tin of cat food every day, and that this happens for 7 days, so I'm going to add up 7 lots of 2/3. Now when I'm adding fractions with the same denominator, the 3 will stay the same, and I'm just going to add up the numbers on the top. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So my answer would be 14 over 3. Now in terms of tins, I could work that out and say that that's 14 over 3, which would be 4 tins and 2/3. So obviously his owner would actually purchase 5 tins. On question 18, I'm told there are only red counters, blue counters, or green counters in a bag, and then I'm given that there are 5 red, 6 blue, and 1 green, and that would give me a total of 5 and 6 and 1, which would be 12 counters in total. I'm told that Jim takes a random counter from the bag, and I need to work out the probability that he takes a red counter. Well, there are 5 red counters, a total of 12, so my probability is going to be 5/12. In the second part of part A, I'm told that he takes out a counter and it is not red, and I'm asked to work out the probability associated with that. Well, the probability of red would be 5/12, so if I do the probability of it being all of the counters or any of the counters, it would be 1 take away 5/12, which would give me 7/12. Of course, I could have just done this as 6 add 1, which would have given me 7. I'm then told he puts the counter back in the bag, so there are still 12 counters in the bag, and he puts some more green counters into the bag. And I'm told the probability of taking a random red counter is now 1/3. Now there are obviously not 1 red counter in the bag, or 3 counters in total. So this fraction I'm going to scale up by using my times tables on the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on the bottom my 3 times table, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. I don't know which one of these fractions I'm going to use, but I know that there's definitely more than 3 counters in the bag. Now, if I go back to the original question, I've got 5 red counters, so I'm actually going to draw 5 red counters, 6 blue counters, and 1 green counter. Now, at the moment I've got 12 counters in the bag, and I know that my fraction has to have on the top 5 because there are definitely 5 red counters in the bag. So I'm going to use this as the fraction I'm working with, because I've got 5 red counters and I've still got 5 red counters here. So I need to have 15 counters in the bag in total. Now at the moment I've still got 12, so I'm going to have to put in some more green counters to take me up to 15 counters. Well, if I've got 12, I'm going to have to add in another 3, and that will take me up to 15 counters in total. So I'm then going to ask the question, have I done this correctly? Work out the number of green counters that are now in the bag. So it's not the 3 additional green ones, it's the total number of green counters, which is 4. On question 19, I'm asked to work out an estimate, which is mathematical speak for round to one significant figure, to the value of this calculation here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to round all of these numbers to one significant figure. So 60.2, if I round that, the first significant figure would be the 6, and therefore I'm going to look at the 0, which is going to leave that as a 6, so therefore this is going to be approximately 60. And I'm going to do the same for the other 2 numbers in the calculation. So 0.799 would be to one significant figure, the first non-zero number. Well, the 9 will make that go up to an 8, so that's going to be 0.8. And then I've got 223. Well, there's the first significant figure. The 2 is going to leave it as it is, so it's going to round to 200. So now I'm going to do the calculation. So I need to do 60 times by 0.8. Well, I know that 60 is 6 times by 10. And multiply that by 0.8. Well, 10 times by 0.8 would give me 8. So I'm going to do 6 times by 8, which would give me 48. And I'm going to try and divide that by the rounded number on the bottom, which is 200. So I'm trying to do 48 divided by 200. Now if I divide both the numerator and the denominator by 2, I'm going to get 24 on the top and 100 on the bottom. And the reason I've done that is in the question I'm asked to write my answer as a decimal. And 24 over 100 is 0.24. On question 20, I'm asked to solve 13x add 1 equals 11x plus 8. So I'm going to draw myself a set of scales over here. And I'm going to write 13x, and I'm going to add 1 on there, and I'm going to have that equal to 11x, add 8. And I'm trying to work down to just x equals. Now I can see that I've got more x on this side than I have on this side, so I'm going to take away 11x from both sides. And that way, I'm going to end up with on this side 2x plus 1, and on this side I'm just going to be left with add 8 or just 8. And again, that will still balance. Now I'm going to look at the fact I've got add 1 on this side and 8 on this side, so I can take away 1 from both sides. And if I do that, I'm going to be left with on this side 2 x's, and on this side I'm going to be left with 7. A little bit untidy, but now I want to work out what 1x is. So I'm going to split this scale into 2 separate scales with x equals on one and x equals on another, giving me a total of my 2 x's. So I've split this into 2 scales, so I've divided it into 2. So what I need to do is do 7 divided by 2, which is 7 divided by 2 on both scales. So my answer would be x equals 7 divided by 2. In part B, I'm asked to solve this equation. So I've got 2y divided by 5 equals 4. So I'm going to times both sides by 5 to get rid of this divide by 5. And that's going to leave me with 2 lots of y is equal to 20. Now I know that 2y is 2 times y, So in order to get rid of this times 2, because I'm just interested in what y is, I'm going to divide by 2. So on this side I'm left with y, and on this side 20 divided by 2 is 10, so y is 10. In question 21, I'm given some information about the lengths of branches on a bush. I'm told that there are 20 branches that are between 0 and 10 centimeters long, and 12 branches between 10 and 20 centimeters long. And I'm asked to draw a frequency polygon. So what I need to do is plot this information on the graph. Now, I know that there are 20 branches that are between 0 and 10, so I'm going to plot between 0 and 10, so I'm going to use my midpoint of 5 centimeters, and I'm going to fill in all the other midpoints so I know where I'm going to plot on the horizontal axis. So the first point is a length of 5 centimeters and a frequency of 20. So a length of 5 would be in there, and the frequency is 20, so that's my first cross. Second midpoint would be 15, so a length of 15 and a frequency of 12. So a length of 15 would be there, and a frequency of 12 would be there. And I'm just going to continue plotting my length on the horizontal axis and my frequency on the vertical axis. So 25 and 10, 35 and 8, 45 and 6, and 55 and 0. And then, because it's a frequency polygon, I'm going to join those points with a straight line. Now again, you'll be a little bit more accurate with a pencil. Question 21b, I'm asked to work out the total number of branches on the bush. Well, I'm told that there are 20 between 0 and 10, 12 between 10 and 20, so I'm just going to add up all of those numbers. And if I add all of those up, I get 32, 42, 50, 56. In part C, I'm asked to write down the modal class interval, and modal class is the class with the most in. So if I go back to my table, I can see that the class with the most in would be the class with the frequency of 20, which is the 0 to 10 class. So the modal class is 0 to 10 centimeters. On question 22, I'm asked to simplify this algebraic expression at the top. So I've got 2a here, and I want to take away from that a, and that's just going to be 1a or a. And I've also got add on 3b, take away b. So I'm adding on 3b, and I'm taking away b, which is the same as adding on 2b. So I'm going to have a, add 2b. In part B, I'm asked to expand 4 lots of 2m, take away 3n. So a couple of ways I could write it out 4 times. And get 8m, take away 12n. Or I could write it in a grid with 4 lots of 2m, take away 3n. So 4 lots of 2 would be 8, 4 lots of 2m would be 8m, 4 lots of 3 would be 12, 4 lots of 3n would therefore be 12n, and I'm taking that away. Either way, same answer, 8m, take 12n. On question 23, I'm asked to find the value of x, and I can see from the diagram this angle here is 150 degrees, and that these two lines here are marked with arrows, and therefore they are parallel. In which case, this angle here corresponds with this angle here, and that therefore is 150 degrees. Now I'm not asked to give a reason, so I can just see that it is the same size by looking at the diagram. In part B, I'm asked to find the value of y, but this time I'm asked to actually give a reason. So like any of these questions, I'm just going to write some values down and see if I can work my way to what y is. Now I know that this one here would be 85, because those angles are vertically opposite, that one and that one, and I know that this would be 95. because I have 180 degrees on a straight line. Now from that, I can tell that the angle Y must be 95 degrees. And again, the same reason, because this angle here corresponds to this angle here. So I need to give reasons for my answer. So the first thing I'm going to describe is where the 95 came from. So 180 take away 85 equals 95. And I'm going to put because angles on a straight line. Total 180 degrees. And then I'm going to say that Y equals 95. And that's because those angles are corresponding. On question 24, I'm asked to complete the table of values for y equals 5x plus 2, and I'm given the x values here, and I'm asked to work out the y values here. And I'm given that x is negative 2, y is negative 8, when x is 0, y is 2, when x is 3, y is 17. So I would always advise that you start up here with the positive numbers, and I'm going to start with x equals 2. So when x equals 2, then 5 lots of x would be equal to 5 lots of 2, which would be 10. And I want to add 2 onto that, so I'm going to get for 5x plus 2 equal to 12. So I can fill that one in as 12. Similarly, for when x equals 1, I know that 5 lots of x will be 5, and therefore for 5x plus 2, I'm going to have that 5 plus 2, which would be 7. Now at that point, I could go and work out x is equal to negative 1, but to start with, I'm just going to check that there is a pattern in this table, and it is going down in 5s. And if I keep going down in 5s, I could work this value out here without having to do any of the sums here. So 2 take away 5 would be negative 3. And that's a good way of checking what I'm about to do, which is when x equals negative 1, 5 lots of x will be negative 5, and therefore 5x plus 2 will be negative 5, add 2, which is negative 3. And therefore I've got this right. In part B, I'm asked to draw the graph of y equals 5x plus 2 for the values given in the table above. So I'm just going to plot them with x being along the corridor and y being down the stairs. So along the corridor to negative 2, down the stairs to negative 8. Similarly, along the corridor to negative 1, down the stairs to negative 3. And I'm just going to continue until I put all my points on the graph, making sure I read the scale carefully as it may be different on both axes. Once I've drawn all of the coordinates, I need to join them up with a straight line and go all the way across my graph. In part C, I'm asked to use my graph to estimate the value of x when y equals 10. So y equals 10 here. So I'm going to draw a line across from the y-axis to my line that I've just drawn, and then I'm going to draw that down until I meet the x-axis. And I'm going to read this value off here, and I can see that my scale goes from 1 to 2. So I'm going to try, I think it might go up in 0.1s. So 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. Well, I'm halfway, so it does go up in 0.1. So this one is one further, so that should be 1.6. On question 25, I'm given a shape that is a square. I'm told it's a side of 12 centimeters. So 12 centimeters this way and 12 centimeters that way. I'm then told that M is the midpoint of CB. So this is M, and it's in the middle of CB. So straight away I'm going to write on this distance here must be 6, and that distance there must be 6, because they're halfway M between C and B. I'm then told that N is a point on AB, which I can see, there's the point N. And I'm told that A to N, which is this distance, is 1/4 of A to B, which is this distance. So the shorter distance is 1/4. Now I know the full distance is 12, so 1/4 of 12 would be 3. So I can now write on that this distance is 3 and that this distance is 9. I'm then asked to calculate the area of the shaded region CDNM. Now, I can see that the original shape, ABCD, was a square, so I'm going to work out the area of the square. And that would be the length times by the width. So that's 12 times by 12, which is 144 centimetres squared. Now I'm going to work out the area of this triangle here, and then this triangle here, and I'm going to subtract them from the full square to give me this shaded area. So the area of triangle number 1 is the base, times by the height divided by 2. And I've already worked those distances out. So the base is 6, times by the height of 9, divided by 2. Well, 6 times 9 is 54, and I can divide that by 2 and get 27 centimetres squared. And then I'm going to work out the area of triangle 2. And again, that's the base times by the height divided by 2. And here's triangle 2 up here, so I'm going to use 3 as the base. And I'm going to times it by the height of 12. And I'm going to divide that by 2. 3 times 12 is 36, divided by 2 is going to be 18 centimetres squared. It doesn't actually make a difference whether you use the 3 as the base or the 12 as the base, I will still get the same answer. So all I need to do now is work out the shaded area, which is going to be the difference between the 144 and I'm going to subtract from that the two triangular areas that I worked out, so the 27 and the 18. So I'm going to subtract from that the 27 added on to the 18. And that should give me the shaded area. Now 27 add 18 is going to be 45. So I'm trying to do 144, take away 45, which is 99 centimetres squared. And that concludes the exam paper.